Step 1. Starting over as an act of courage. Have you ever stopped to think about how much we lie to ourselves? Especially when that feeling of starting over knocks on the door? Next year will be different, you say. But then January arrives and you're exactly in the same place, the same life. And do you know why? Because true change isn't about resolutions. It's about genuine transformation. It's about starting over as an act of courage, fueled by Christian hope. Here's the truth. You don't need another chance. You need real transformation. Profound, authentic. This transformation comes from a threefold reconciliation with God, with yourself, and with your neighbor. It comes from genuine self-knowledge, from spiritual vigilance, from replacing that negative inner dialogue with the truth of God's love. But here's the problem. You feel that spiritual restlessness, that inner voice telling you there's something bigger. But when the time comes to act, you're paralyzed. Because change requires courage. It requires you to face your fears, to seek liberation from complacency, to discover your true purpose. In the next steps, you will learn how to cultivate active faith, how to experience spiritual healing, and how to live life to the fullest. Because when you truly understand that you are unconditionally loved, that God walks with you through every adversity, and that divine providence sustains your spiritual journey, you discover a power that changes everything. Are you ready for this renewal? Step 2. Triple reconciliation. Have you ever stopped to think about how much we carry? I'm not talking about physical weight, but that invisible weight we feel in our chest, you know? The one that comes from broken relationships, unresolved resentments, distance from God. Most people spend their entire lives carrying this burden without realizing that there is a solution, and that solution has a name: triple reconciliation. Now, when we talk about reconciliation, the first thing that comes to mind is making peace with someone out there, right? That friend you hurt, that family member you argued with. But here's the detail that changes everything. True peace, the peace that truly transforms your life, requires much more than that. It requires you to reconcile simultaneously on three fronts: with God, with yourself, and with others. Let me explain why. When you're in conflict with God, when there's that feeling of distance, that spiritual restlessness that won't go away, everything else is compromised. It's like trying to fix a relationship while the house is on fire. It doesn't work. You first need to restore that connection with the Creator, that presence of God that should be the foundation of everything. And how do you do that? Through divine forgiveness. You acknowledge your sins, your mistakes, those things you did that you know you shouldn't have done, and you ask for forgiveness. It's not an empty formality. No, it's a genuine act of humility, of recognizing that you need God, that you can't do it alone. But here's the part most people ignore. You also need to reconcile with yourself. You know that negative inner dialogue, that voice that keeps telling you that you're not enough, that you're a failure, that you should have done things differently. Well, many people spend their entire lives at war with themselves, and that's devastating. Because how can you genuinely love others if you can't even love yourself? How can you offer unconditional love if you're constantly criticizing yourself, judging yourself, condemning yourself? Here's the crucial point. You need to learn to treat yourself with the same compassion you would offer a dear friend. If a friend made a mistake, would you condemn them forever? No, right. You would forgive them, support them, help them grow. So why don't you do that for yourself? That's a question worth answering. Because when you manage to reconcile with yourself, when you manage to accept your mistakes, learn from them, and move on, something changes. You develop real awareness. You understand who you really are, beyond your failures and limitations. And then, when you are at peace with God and with yourself, then you can truly reconcile with others. Because now you are not acting out of guilt, obligation, or fear. You are acting out of genuine love. You can look at the person who hurt you and say, "I forgive you." And you can say this without resentment, without that bitterness that echoes behind the words. Let me be very practical. If there's someone in your life you're in conflict with, start like this. First, take some time to pray, to talk to God about it. Ask forgiveness for your mistakes, for your part in that conflict. Then, do an honest reflection with yourself, maybe even write it down on paper about how you feel about yourself. Acknowledge your fears, your insecurities, and then, when you're ready, seek out that person. Not to win an argument, but to restore the relationship. Because the truth is that threefold reconciliation isn't a destination, it's a path. It's a continuous spiritual journey of inner searching, of spiritual vigilance, of being attentive to what's happening within you and around you. And you know what's fascinating? When you manage to do that, when you truly reconcile on these three fronts, you discover something few experience: freedom. That freedom of no longer being bound to the past, of no longer being at war with yourself, of no longer being distant from God. It's a feeling of lightness that's hard to describe, but easy to recognize when you feel it. But while you're here, thinking about these three reconciliations, there's something you need to understand about how this piece actually works in practice. Step 3. Unconditional love as a foundation. There's something we learn from a young age. Love is conditional. You behave well, your parents love you. You get good grades, your teachers praise you. You're productive at work, your boss values you. Everything seems to work that way. You do something of value, and then you deserve to be loved. But here's the problem, and it's a serious problem. This logic is completely contrary to God's love. Unconditional love is love that doesn't depend on what you do, who you are, or what you achieve. It's love that's simply there because you exist. Period. It doesn't need justification. It doesn't need merit. It doesn't need anything. You are loved because you are. And when you truly internalize this, when you understand that God's love is like that, without measure, without limit, without condition, everything changes. Because then you discover that you have a solid foundation on which to build your life. Think about it. How many times have you felt inadequate? How many times have you thought you weren't enough? How many times have you worked hard, given your all, and still felt it wasn't enough? That's what happens when you live under the illusion of conditional love. You're always chasing after something, always trying to prove your worth, always seeking external validation. It's exhausting. It's depressing. It's a prison. But here's the truth that few manage to embrace. You don't need to prove anything. You are already loved, completely, totally, unconditionally. This love of God doesn't fluctuate based on your performance. It doesn't diminish when you fail. It doesn't increase when you succeed. It simply is. And when you are able to live from this truth, when you are able to build your life on this solid foundation, you discover a peace that is practically indescribable. Now, let me be completely honest with you. This doesn't mean you can do whatever you want without consequences. That's not how it works. But it does mean that even when you make mistakes, even when you sin, even when you fall, you are not abandoned. You are not rejected. You are loved. And this support, this love that sustains you, even in the worst circumstances, is what allows you to get up again. It's what allows you to seek transformation, authentic change, growth. Let me give you a very practical example. Imagine you made a mistake at work, a big mistake. Something that cost money, that harmed the company, that made your boss furious. Now, if you live under the logic of conditional love, you're going to panic. You're going to think, now, nobody loves me anymore. Now, I'm a failure. Now, I'm worthless. And you're going to be paralyzed, unable to act, unable to fix things. But if you live under the truth of God's unconditional love, you can breathe. You can say, I made a mistake. That's bad. But I am loved. God hasn't abandoned me. Now, I'm going to fix this in the best way I can. Do you see the difference? One perspective paralyzes you, the other sets you free. And here's something that's truly transformative. When you experience this unconditional love of God, you can offer the same to others. You can love people not because they deserve it, not because they did something for you, but simply because they exist. You can forgive more easily. You can be more compassionate. You can see the potential in people, even when they can't see it in themselves. Because you understand, in practice, what it means to be loved unconditionally. Now, how do you cultivate this in your life? Start with a simple practice. Every day, take a few minutes to remind yourself of this truth. It could be during prayer, during meditation, or while you're having coffee. Say to yourself, I am loved unconditionally, not because I deserve it, but because God loves me. And this love is my foundation. Nothing can take that away from me. Repeat this as many times as necessary until it ceases to be just words and becomes a deep conviction. Furthermore, seek to surround yourself with people who love you unconditionally. People who support you even when you fail, who believe in you even when you don't believe in yourself. Because when you are surrounded by this kind of love, even if it's just one or two people, you can experience, on a small scale, what God's love is, and this prepares you to better understand the divine support that is always available to you. But you know what's interesting? When you truly begin to live from this foundation of unconditional love, you discover that there's something even deeper that needs to happen within you. There is a transformation that goes beyond the emotional, that touches the spiritual. Step 4. Transforming Eucharist. There is a moment in a Christian's life that is absolutely unique, absolutely transformative. It's that moment when you kneel, receive the body and blood of Christ, and realize you are not alone. That it's not just a ritual, a tradition, something you do because you've always done it. No, it's a living encounter. It's a sacrament that touches the deepest part of your being and renews you in a way that words struggle to describe. The Eucharist is not just a symbol. Let me be very clear about that. For many people, it's easy to reduce the Eucharist to a symbolic gesture, something beautiful, something traditional. But when you truly understand what is happening, when you understand that you are receiving Christ for real, not just symbolically, something changes profoundly within you. It's as if you are receiving an infusion of divine life, a sustenance that comes directly from the presence of God. Think about it. What is the most intimate thing you can do with someone? It's receiving something from that person inside yourself, right? When you eat something that someone prepared with love, you are receiving that person inside you, in a way. But the Eucharist goes far beyond that. You are receiving Christ. You are allowing God's presence to enter you, to dwell in you, to transform you from the inside out. And here's the crucial point. This transformation isn't automatic. You can't simply go to the Eucharist, receive the sacrament, and expect everything to magically change. It doesn't work that way. The Eucharist is an encounter, and like any genuine encounter, it demands something from you. It demands that you be present. It demands that you be open. It demands that you truly desire to be transformed. Let me be very practical. Before you receive the Eucharist, something needs to happen. You need to reconcile. You need to have that internal dialogue, that honest self-criticism about who you are and what you have done. You need to acknowledge your sins, those things you know you shouldn't have done, those ways you have failed yourself, your neighbor, God. And then, when you approach the Eucharist with that open heart, with that genuine willingness for authentic change, that's when the sacrament works. That's when you experience the spiritual healing it offers. Because here's the truth. The Eucharist heals. It heals the wounds you carry, those you can't always name. That old hurt you thought you'd overcome, but which still aches when you least expect it. That trauma you've carried since childhood. That feeling of inadequacy that has accompanied you for years. The Eucharist touches all of that. Because when you receive Christ, when you allow God's presence to enter you, you are allowing divine love to touch precisely those places that most need healing. And it's not just healing, no, it's renewal. It's as if you're being recreated, reshaped, restored. You leave that encounter different. Not necessarily with your life solved. Life continues with its challenges, its adversities, its difficulties. but you leave with a different strength, with a renewed Christian hope, with a certainty that God walks with you, that He does not abandon you, that there is a greater purpose in everything you are experiencing. Now, let me give you a very concrete example. Imagine you're going through a very difficult time. You lost your job, your relationship ended, you feel completely lost. You go to the Eucharist not because everything is okay, but precisely because you are broken. And at that moment, when you receive the sacrament, something happens. You feel the presence of God. You feel that you are not alone. You feel that there is a greater force that sustains you, that carries you, that tells you you will succeed. You will get through this. I am with you. That is transformative. That is liberating. But here's the important detail. The Eucharist is not a substitute for the work you need to do within yourself. It's not a magic solution that solves everything. It's an encounter with Christ that strengthens you, renews you, and empowers you to do the inner work that needs to be done. It's the divine support that allows you to face adversity with courage, with active faith, with the certainty that you are not alone. And you know what's fascinating? When you begin to participate regularly in the Eucharist, not just occasionally, but as part of a consistent spiritual practice, you discover that your spiritual walk changes. You develop a different kind of spiritual vigilance. You become more aware of what's happening within you. You can more quickly identify when you're falling into complacency, when you're drifting away from God, when you're losing sight of your life's purpose. But while you're here, reflecting on this transformative encounter with Christ, there's something you need to understand about how this renewal connects to the liberation you truly seek. Step 5. Liberation through forgiveness. There's something we carry that's heavier than any backpack, heavier than any physical burden. It's that hurt, that resentment, that anger you hold against someone or even against yourself for something that happened. And you know what's interesting? Most people spend their whole lives carrying this without realizing that there's a key that unlocks this prison. That key is called forgiveness. Now, when we talk about forgiveness, the first thing that comes to mind is forgiving someone who has hurt us. That person who betrayed us, who wounded us, who deeply disappointed us. And yes, forgiving that person is important. But here's the detail that changes everything. Forgiveness isn't primarily for the other person. Forgiveness is for you. It's an act of personal liberation, of inner healing, of genuine transformation. Let me explain why. When you hold a grudge, when you refuse to forgive, you're basically putting a chain around yourself. You're saying, I'm going to suffer because this person made me suffer. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It doesn't work that way. The only one who suffers is you. The only one who's trapped is you. And while you're there, reliving that hurt, that anger, that pain, the other person may be living their life normally, without even knowing you're suffering. But here's the transformative truth. Divine forgiveness, that forgiveness which comes from God, which you can access through active faith, has the power to break those chains. It has the power to set you free. Because when you forgive, when you truly release that resentment, when you say, I forgive you, and I forgive myself too for carrying this for so long, something extraordinary happens. You discover a freedom that is practically indescribable. Now, let me be completely honest. Forgiveness isn't easy, especially when the wound is deep, when the betrayal is great, when the damage is real. Forgiving doesn't mean you're saying what the person did was right. It doesn't mean you're forgetting what happened. It doesn't mean you're simply going back to trusting that person as if nothing happened. No. Forgiving means you're letting go of resentment. It means you're choosing not to let that past action define your future. It means you're choosing peace over war. Let me give you a very concrete example. Imagine your best friend betrayed you. He shared a secret of yours with other people, and that hurt you. You're furious. You're hurt. You never want to speak to that person again. Now, you can stay in that state forever, and many people do. Or you can do something different. You can acknowledge the pain, acknowledge that what he did was wrong, but then you can choose to forgive. You can say, what you did hurt me, but I choose not to let it destroy me. I choose to forgive you and move on. And when you do that, when you truly do that, you find that the weight you were carrying disappears. You can breathe again. But here's the crucial point. Before you can truly forgive someone, you first need to be forgiven. You need to experience divine forgiveness. You need to understand, in practice, what it means to be forgiven by God, despite all your sins, despite all your failings, despite everything you've done that you know you shouldn't have done. Because when you experience that forgiveness, when you truly feel God's grace enveloping you, cleansing you, restoring you, then you can offer the same to others. And you know what's fascinating? When you start living from forgiveness, when you start forgiving regularly, when you start letting go of grudges, when you start freeing people and yourself from the prisons of resentment, you discover that your life changes completely. You become lighter. You are able to love better. You are able to relate better. You are able to live better. Now, how do you cultivate this in practice? Start by identifying those people you haven't yet forgiven, those you hold resentment towards. It could be someone who hurt you years ago, or it could be something more recent. Write their names on a piece of paper, and then, in a moment of prayer, of quiet, of connection with God, say to each of them, even if it's only in your heart, even if you'll never say it aloud, I forgive you. I release this resentment. I choose peace. And then burn that paper. Let it go, because that resentment no longer belongs to you. Furthermore, there's something equally important. You need to forgive yourself. You need to acknowledge those things you did that you know you shouldn't have done, those mistakes you made, those ways you failed yourself, others, God. And you need to say, I acknowledge this. I'm sorry. But I also forgive myself. I will not let my past mistakes define my future, because when you can do that, when you can truly forgive yourself, you discover an inner peace that is transformative. And here's the point that connects everything. When you experience this liberation through forgiveness, when you release those chains that bound you, you discover that there is space within you for something new. There is space for authentic change, for real growth, for a transformation that goes far beyond the superficial. Because you are no longer spending all your energy carrying old grudges. You are free to build something new. Step 6. Healthy spiritual restlessness. There's a feeling that most people try to avoid at all costs. It's that inner discomfort, that restlessness that won't leave you in peace. That voice that keeps whispering that something isn't right, that you could be more, that you should be doing something different. And you know what's interesting? Most people interpret this as something negative. They try to get rid of this feeling. They try to distract themselves. They try to ignore it. But here's the truth that few understand. This spiritual restlessness is, in fact, a gift. It's a sign that you are alive, that you are awake, that there is something within you that still seeks growth, that still seeks transformation, that still seeks fulfillment. When you are completely comfortable, when you are completely satisfied with who you are and what you are doing, there is a real danger: complacency. It's easy to fall into that trap. It's easy to say, it's okay like this. I am who I am. I don't need to change. And when you do that, when you settle, you stop growing. You stop evolving. You stop seeking what really matters. You get stuck in a life that is comfortable, but not fulfilling. That is safe, but not meaningful. But that discomfort you feel, that restlessness that won't leave you in peace, that's different. That's God touching you. That's the presence of God telling you, there is more. There is something greater. There is a deeper purpose for your life. And when you can recognize that, when you can interpret that restlessness not as something bad, but as a call to growth, everything changes. Let me be very practical. Imagine you're in a comfortable job. You earn well. You have security. You have benefits, but you're not happy. You feel you're wasting your potential. You feel you should be doing something that truly matters, something you're passionate about, something that connects you to a greater purpose. Now, that feeling of discomfort, that spiritual restlessness, is exactly what you need to make a change. Because if you ignore it, if you say, "No, I'll stay here because it's safe," you'll spend the rest of your life wondering, what if? You'll remain trapped in complacency. But here's the important detail. This healthy spiritual restlessness is not the same thing as anxiety or depression. It's not that feeling of panic, that feeling that everything is falling apart. No, it's a more subtle, deeper feeling. It's that inner voice that tells you that you can be more, that you should be seeking something greater, that there's a calling waiting for you. It's divine truth touching you, awakening you, inviting you on a deeper spiritual journey. And you know what's fascinating? When you manage to embrace that restlessness instead of running away from it, when you manage to use it as fuel for growth, you discover that it takes you to extraordinary places. It leads you to take that course you always wanted to take. It leads you to start that project you always dreamed of. It leads you to have those difficult conversations you were avoiding. It leads you to an inner search, to that honest internal dialogue about who you really are and who you want to be. Now, how do you cultivate a healthy relationship with this restlessness? First, you need to learn to listen to it. You need to create space in your life for that silence, for that stillness, for that reflection. It can be through prayer, it can be through meditation, it can be through walks in nature. The important thing is that you set aside time to be with yourself, to listen to that inner voice, to understand what it is trying to tell you. Secondly, you need to have the courage to act, because spiritual restlessness without action is just frustration. You need to take those steps, even if they are small, even if you are afraid. If you feel you should be doing something different with your life, start researching. If you feel you should be more connected with God, start praying regularly. If you feel you should be helping others more, start looking for volunteer opportunities. Because every small step you take in response to this restlessness is a step towards transformation, towards growth, towards fulfillment. And here's something that's really important. This spiritual restlessness isn't something you resolve once and that's it. It's not like fixing a car. You don't fix it and then never have to think about it again. No, it's something ongoing. It's part of a lifelong spiritual journey. Because as you grow, as you change, as you transform, new restlessness arises. New areas of your life demand attention. New callings appear. And that's good. It means you're alive, that you're awake, that you're in motion. But you know what's interesting? When you can embrace this restlessness, when you can see it as a sign that God is working in you, when you can use it as fuel for growth and transformation, you discover that something much deeper is happening. There is a spiritual vigilance that develops, an active faith that strengthens, a connection with divine truth that deepens. And this prepares you to understand something that is absolutely crucial to your spiritual journey. Step 7. Spiritual vigilance. There's a word that appears several times in the Bible, and that many people don't fully understand. Watch. Watch and pray, says Jesus. Keep on the watch, the apostles repeat. And you know what's interesting? This isn't a casual suggestion. It's not something you do if you have free time. It's a direct call. It's an essential instruction for anyone who truly wants to live an authentic spiritual life. Because spiritual watchfulness is precisely what prevents you from falling into complacency. It's what keeps you awake. It's what allows you to live with active faith. Now, when we talk about spiritual vigilance, what are we really talking about? We're talking about being attentive. We're talking about keeping our eyes open. We're talking about not letting life carry you along automatically without you realizing what's happening. Because here's the truth. It's very easy to fall into autopilot. It's very easy to wake up, go to work, come home, watch TV, sleep, and repeat this every day without ever stopping to think if this is what you really want, if this is what brings you closer to God, if this is what leads you towards your life's purpose. Let me be very practical. How many times have you found yourself spending hours on social media without even realizing it? How many times have you found yourself overeating, overdrinking, overspending, without really being aware of what you were doing? How many times have you let an entire day go by without praying, without thinking about God, without connecting with what really matters? That's a lack of spiritual vigilance. It's letting life take you wherever it wants, instead of being in control, instead of being conscious, instead of being present. And here's the real danger. When you're not vigilant, when you're not attentive, it's very easy to fall into destructive patterns. It's very easy to let sin creep into your life. Not necessarily big, obvious sins, but those little sins you don't even realize you're committing. That little lie you tell to get out of a situation. That silent judgment you make of someone. That envy you feel when you see someone else's success. That resentment you hold against someone. These little sins, when you're not vigilant, when you're not attentive, they grow, they multiply. They poison your soul slowly, without you realizing it. But when you are vigilant, when you are attentive, when you are aware, you can identify these patterns. You can say, wait a minute, this is not who I want to be. This is not where I want to go. This is not consistent with my values, with my faith, with my purpose. And then you can make a change. Then you can correct the course. Now, how do you cultivate this spiritual vigilance? First, you need to create a regular practice of reflection. It can be daily, it can be weekly, but it needs to be consistent. Set aside time. It can be 15 minutes, it can be an hour to be with yourself, to review your day, to think about your actions, your words, your thoughts. Ask yourself, how did I behave today? Were there times when I wasn't who I want to be? Were there times when I distanced myself from God? Were there times when I failed others? This honest self-criticism, this genuine inner dialogue, is what keeps you vigilant. Secondly, you need to be connected to divine truth. And how do you do that? Through reading the Bible, through prayer, through participation in the sacraments. Because when you are regularly connected to the Word of God, when you are regularly in dialogue with God, you develop a spiritual sensitivity. You can identify more quickly when something is wrong, when you are straying, when you are falling into complacency. Let me give you a very concrete example. Imagine you're in an unhealthy relationship. Your partner is controlling, verbally aggressive, and manipulative. Now, if you're not vigilant, if you're not attentive, it's very easy to normalize that. It's very easy to say, well, nobody's perfect. He has his problems, but I love him. And you get stuck in that relationship, suffering, deteriorating. But if you are vigilant, if you are attentive, if you are connected to divine truth, you can clearly see, this is not love. This is abuse. This is not what God wants for me. I need to get out of this. Single quotes, and you can take the necessary action. And here's something that's really important. Spiritual vigilance is not paranoia. It's not about being constantly scared, constantly worried, constantly seeing danger in everything. No, it's about being aware. It's about being present. It's about being attentive. It's about being connected to God's presence and divine truth, so that you can navigate life with clarity, purpose, and active faith. Now, one thing that many people don't understand is that this spiritual vigilance is especially important during times when you're doing well. Because it's when you're doing well, when you're comfortable, when you're succeeding, that it's easier to fall into complacency. It's easier to say, everything is great. I don't need God anymore. I don't need to pray anymore. I don't need to think about my spiritual purpose anymore. And then, slowly, you begin to drift away. You start to lose that connection. And before you know it, you're completely lost. But when you are vigilant, when you are attentive, you can avoid that. You can maintain that connection even in good times. You can continue praying, continue seeking, continue growing, even when everything is going well. Because you understand that spiritual vigilance is not something you do only when you are in crisis. It is something you do always, continuously, as part of a consistent spiritual walk. And you know what's fascinating? When you manage to maintain that vigilance, when you manage to be attentive, when you manage to be conscious, you discover that your life changes completely. You manage to identify opportunities that you didn't see before. You manage to avoid traps that you didn't perceive before. You manage to live with more purpose, with more clarity, with more peace, because you are no longer letting life take you. You are in control. You are conscious. You are present. But while you're here, thinking about this spiritual vigilance, about this need to be attentive and aware, there's something you need to understand about that inner voice that's always speaking to you. Step 8. Overcoming negative self-talk. There's a conversation you have every day that no one else hears. It's that conversation you have with yourself. That internal dialogue that's always happening, always whispering, always judging. And you know what's interesting? For most people, this dialogue is absolutely destructive. It's a voice that says, "You're not enough. You're a failure. You don't deserve to be happy. You should have done things differently. You're inadequate. You're unworthy." And that voice, that negative internal dialogue, is one of the most harmful things you can allow in your life. Because here's the truth. You believe what you tell yourself. If you spend all day criticizing yourself, judging yourself, condemning yourself, you'll end up believing it. You'll internalize those messages. You'll start acting as if they're true. And then, slowly, you'll become what you're telling yourself. You'll become a failure because you believe you're a failure. You'll become inadequate because you believe you're inadequate. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it's absolutely devastating. But here's the good news. You can change that. You can replace that negative self-talk with the truth of God's love. You can learn to talk to yourself the way God talks to you. And when you do that, when you really do that, everything changes. Let me be perfectly honest. This isn't easy. Especially if you've spent years, maybe decades, listening to that negative voice. Especially if you were raised in an environment where you were constantly criticized, constantly judged, constantly made to feel inadequate. Those messages become deeply ingrained. They become part of who you are. And uprooting them requires work. It requires spiritual vigilance. It requires honest and compassionate self. But here's the point. You're not alone in this process. God is with you. God's presence is available to you, to help you, to sustain you, to transform you. Because when you can connect with God's love, when you can truly understand that you are loved unconditionally, that you have value, that you are worthy, that you are enough, not because you did something to deserve it, but simply because you exist, then you can begin to change that internal dialogue. Let me give you a very practical example. Imagine you made a mistake at work, something that cost money, that harmed a project, that made your boss furious. Now, that negative inner dialogue will say, "You're incompetent. You shouldn't be in this job. You're a failure. You'll never get anything right. You should quit." And if you believe that, if you let that voice define you, you'll panic. You'll be paralyzed. You'll lose confidence in yourself. But here's what you can do differently. You can acknowledge the mistake. "I made a mistake. That was bad. I'm sorry." But then you can say to yourself, "But this doesn't define me. This doesn't mean I'm a failure. This means I'm human. Everyone makes mistakes. What matters now is what I'm going to do to fix this. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to grow from this. And God is with me in this process. I'm not alone." See the difference? One approach destroys you, the other builds you up. Now, how do you begin to make that change? First, you need to be aware of that dialogue. You need to start noticing when that negative voice is speaking. It may seem strange, but many people go through life without even realizing they are constantly criticizing themselves. So start paying attention when you are doing something, when you are in a social situation, when you are facing a challenge. Pay attention to what you are saying to yourself. What is that voice? What is it saying? Second, when you identify that negative dialogue, pause, breathe, and then, consciously, replace it with something different. If that voice says, "You are not enough," you say, "I am loved by God. I have value. I am enough." If that voice says, "You are a failure," you say, "I am learning. I am growing." Every mistake is an opportunity for transformation. If that voice says, "You don't deserve to be happy," you say, "I deserve to be happy. God wants me to be happy. I will seek the fullness that God has for me." Third, you need to create a consistent practice of connecting with divine truth. Because this change in inner dialogue doesn't happen overnight. It requires repetition. It requires consistency. So set aside time every day. It could be in the morning. It could be at night to connect with God. Read the Bible, pray, meditate, listen to spiritual music. Do whatever it takes to connect with that truth that you are loved, that you have value, that you are worthy. Because the more you connect with that truth, the easier it becomes to replace that negative dialogue. And here's something that's really important. This change in inner dialogue isn't vanity. It's not arrogance. It's not you thinking you're better than others. No, it's you recognizing the truth about who you are in God's eyes. It's you accepting divine love. It's you allowing divine truth to transform you. And when you do that, when you truly do that, you discover that not only does your inner dialogue change, but your whole life changes. You can relate better to people. You can make better decisions. You can live with more purpose, with more peace, with more fulfillment. But you know what's fascinating? When you manage to transform that internal dialogue, when you manage to replace destructive self-criticism with the truth of God's love, you discover that something much deeper begins to happen. There's an inner search that deepens, an understanding of your purpose that becomes clearer, a connection with the meaning of life that strengthens. And this prepares you to understand something that is absolutely essential for a full life. Chapter 9. The search for meaning and purpose. There's a question every human being asks at some point in their life. It might be at 20, it might be at 50, it might be at 80. But at some point, you ask yourself, what is the meaning of my life? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And you know what's interesting? This question isn't a sign of weakness. It's not a sign that you're lost or confused. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's a sign that you're awake. It's a sign that there is a healthy spiritual restlessness within you, a genuine inner search, a hunger for something greater. Because here's the truth. A life without purpose is an empty life. You can have money, you can have success, you can have comfort, but if you don't have a sense of purpose, if you don't know why you're here, if you don't have a greater reason for doing what you do, then all of that is empty. It's like being in a beautiful, comfortable boat, but without knowing where you're going. You might be sailing in circles, expending energy, but never getting anywhere. But when you discover your purpose, when you understand why you are here, when you understand what your mission is in this life, everything changes. Suddenly, the things you do gain meaning. The challenges you face gain context. The adversities you go through gain purpose. Because you are no longer just living. You are living for something. You are living for someone. You are living with passion, with purpose, with fulfillment. Now, let me be very clear about something. Your purpose doesn't necessarily have to be something grand. It doesn't have to be saving the world. It doesn't have to be becoming famous. It doesn't have to be doing something that will make the news. Your purpose can be much simpler, much more personal, much deeper. It can be being a good father or mother. It can be being a loyal friend. It can be helping the people around you. It can be creating something beautiful. It can be serving God through your work. It can be anything that connects you to something greater than yourself. Let me give you a very concrete example. Imagine you are a teacher. Now, you can see your work in two ways. First way, I am a teacher. I give classes. I earn my salary. End of story. From this perspective, your work is just a means to earn money. It's tiring, it's repetitive, it's meaningless. But now imagine a second way. I am a teacher. My purpose is to transform lives through education. Each student I teach is an opportunity to make a difference. I am helping to shape the future. I am contributing to a better world. From this perspective, your work gains meaning. It gains purpose. It gains passion. And suddenly, that work that was tiring becomes inspiring. Now, how do you discover your purpose? Well, that's a journey. It's not something you discover overnight. But here are some things you can do to begin that inner search. First, reflect on what you are passionate about. What makes you lose track of time? What would you do even if no one paid you? What makes you feel alive? Because your purpose is usually connected to what you are passionate about. It's not a coincidence. It's God guiding you through what you love. Second, think about your gifts and talents. What are you good at? What do people ask you for help with? Because your purpose often involves using your gifts to serve others. You weren't given these talents by chance. You were given them so that you could make a difference. Third, consider the needs of the world around you. What bothers you? What do you see that is wrong and that you would like to fix? Because your purpose often involves filling a gap, solving a problem, helping those who are suffering. And fourth then, this is crucial, connect all of this with God. Because your true purpose, your deepest purpose, is always connected to God. It's always about serving God, about loving God, about drawing closer to God. Because when you put God at the center of your purpose, when you understand that everything you do is for God's glory, for God's love, for God's presence, then you discover a purpose that is truly transformative. Now, let me be completely honest. Discovering your purpose can be daunting. Because when you discover your purpose, you also discover that there is responsibility. There is expectation. There is a need to act, to commit, to dedicate yourself. And many people prefer to remain ignorant. They prefer not to know, because that way they don't have to do anything. They can continue living a comfortable life, without purpose, but also without responsibility. But here's the truth. A life without purpose is not a comfortable life. It's an empty life. It's a life of complacency. And complacency, despite seeming comfortable, is actually a prison. It's a slow death, because you're not living, you're just existing. So, how do you begin? Start small. Set aside some time. It could be an hour. It could be a weekend to be with yourself, to reflect, to pray. Ask yourself the questions I mentioned. Write down the answers, and then start taking action. It doesn't have to be something big. It can be something small. It could be volunteering with an organization you believe in. It could be starting that project you've always dreamed of. It could be having that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. It could simply be dedicating more time to God, to prayer, to inner searching. Because here's the secret. Your purpose isn't something you discover, and that's it. It's something you live. It's something you cultivate. It's something you develop over time, through actions, through choices, through a consistent spiritual journey. And the more you live your purpose, the more you dedicate yourself to it. The more you put it into practice, the clearer it becomes, the deeper it becomes, the more transformative it is. And you know what's fascinating? When you manage to live your purpose, when you manage to awaken that passion within you, when you manage to connect your life with something greater than yourself, you discover that a confidence develops, a certainty emerges, a peace envelops you, because you are no longer navigating in the dark. You have a compass, you have a direction, you have a reason to be here. And that, my friend, is transformative. But this confidence, this certainty, this peace, they are only possible when you understand something very profound about the nature of God and how He walks with you. Step 10. Trust in God's constant presence. There's a moment that marks the life of anyone who truly believes in God. It's that moment when you realize, not just intellectually, but viscerally, deep within your being, that God is with you. He's not far away. He's not distant. He's not waiting for you to be good enough to approach. He's here, now, always. And when you truly understand this, when you truly feel it, everything changes, because you discover that you were never alone, that you will never be alone, that God's presence is constant, real, and tangible. Because here's the truth that changes everything. God isn't a clock you consult when you need it. He's not a taxi you call when you're in trouble. He's not a friend you see when you have time. God is a constant presence. He's the one who walks with you every step of the way. He's the one who is by your side in joys and adversities. He's the one who never sleeps, who never tires, who never abandons you. And when you manage to live from this truth, when you can truly trust in it, you discover a peace that is practically indescribable. Now, let me be completely honest. This isn't easy to believe, especially when you're going through something difficult, especially when you're suffering, when you're lost, when you're desperate. In those moments, it's easy to think, where is God? Why isn't He helping me? Why is He letting me suffer? And those are legitimate questions. They are questions every Christian asks at some point. But here's the point. God is not absent. He is present. But His presence doesn't work the way we expect. Let me explain. When you're in a difficult situation, you expect God to magically solve everything, right? You expect Him to take you out of that situation, to make the problem disappear. But that's not how God works. God doesn't take you out of adversity. God sustains you in adversity. God walks with you through it. And that's a crucial difference. Because when God sustains you, when God walks with you, you discover that you are much stronger than you thought. You discover that you can endure things you thought you couldn't. You discover that there is a divine providence at work, even if you can't see it clearly at the moment. Let me give you a very concrete example. Imagine you are going through a serious illness. You are scared. You are suffering. You are praying for God to heal you. Now, it may be that God miraculously heals you, but it may also be that God does not heal you in that way. You may have to undergo treatments, surgeries, pain. You may have to learn to live with that illness. Now, at that moment, you may think, God is not with me. God has abandoned me. But here is the truth. God is with you. He is in the doctor who is treating you. He is in the family that is supporting you. He is in the strength you discover within yourself to face each day. He is in the peace you feel, even in the midst of suffering. He is in the transformation you experience through that adversity. Because God does not abandon you. He walks with you. And here's something that's really important. This trust in God's constant presence is not passivity. It's not about sitting around waiting for God to do everything. No, it's about acting, doing your part, but with the certainty that God is with you. It's about making the decisions you need to make, but knowing that God is guiding you. It's about working hard, but trusting that God is sustaining you. It's about fighting, but knowing that you are not fighting alone. Let me be very practical. If you're facing financial difficulties, you don't wait for God to shower money on you. You look for a job, you work hard, you do what needs to be done. But while you do that, you trust that God is with you. You trust that God is opening doors. You trust that God is providing. And that trust, that certainty that you are not alone, is what allows you to act with courage, with Christian hope, with active faith. Now, how do you cultivate that trust? First, you need to have experiences with God. You need to see, in your own life, examples of how God has been with you. It could be something bigger, miraculous, healing, an unexpected opportunity, a literal salvation. Or it could be something small, a conversation that helped you at the right moment, a feeling of peace when you needed it most, a coincidence that was clearly divine providence. Start noticing these things. Start recognizing God's hand in your life, because when you start to see, when you start to recognize, your trust grows. Secondly, you need to be in constant dialogue with God, through prayer, through reading the Bible, through meditation, through participation in the sacraments, because the more you are in contact with God, the more you feel His presence, the more you trust Him, It's like a human relationship. The more time you spend with someone, the more you trust that person, the safer you feel with them. The same is true with God. Third, you need to learn to recognize God's voice. Because God speaks to you, not necessarily in an audible voice, but through intuitions, through feelings, through circumstances, through other people. When you learn to recognize that voice, when you learn to distinguish between God's voice and the other voices that are speaking to you, you can follow His guidance. You can trust His direction. You can walk with confidence, knowing that you are being guided. And here's something that's absolutely transformative. When you truly manage to trust in God's constant presence, when you truly manage to live from that truth, you discover that fear disappears. Not completely, you'll still have natural fears that protect you, but that existential fear, that fear of being alone, that fear of not succeeding, that fear that everything will collapse, that fear disappears because you know you're not alone. You know God is with you. You know you will succeed because God is sustaining you. Let me be completely honest. This confidence isn't something you develop once and that's it. It's not like learning to ride a bicycle. You learn and never forget. No. It's something you cultivate continuously. There will be days when you'll be full of confidence, full of faith. And there will be days when you'll doubt, when you'll feel alone, when you'll question. And that's okay. That's part of the spiritual journey. The important thing is that you keep coming back. You keep seeking. You keep trusting. Because every time you come back, every time you seek, every time you trust, you are strengthening that connection. You are deepening that relationship with God. And you know what's fascinating? When you can live with that confidence, when you can truly believe that God is with you, when you can trust in divine providence, you discover that your life is completely transformed. You can face adversity with courage. You can pursue your purpose with passion. You can love your neighbor with unconditional love. You can live with fullness, with peace, with purpose, because you are no longer living alone. You are living with God. And when you are with God, when you are truly with God, nothing is impossible. Nothing is insurmountable. Nothing is hopeless. Because here is the ultimate truth, the truth that encapsulates everything you have learned on this journey. You are not alone. You have never been alone, and you will never be alone. God is with you, always, in every step, in every challenge, in every victory, in every fall, in every new beginning. God is here, now. And this constant presence, this unwavering certainty, is the foundation upon which you can build a truly transformed, truly full, truly meaningful life. Conclusion: the time to act is now. You've made it this far. You've read the 10 steps. You understand the transformation journey ahead of you. But now comes the most important part, the part most people don't do. Now comes the action. Because knowledge without action is just information. And information without application is completely useless. So let me ask you a few questions. Questions that you need to answer honestly with yourself. Do you really want to change? Or are you too comfortable in your comfort zone, in that life that doesn't satisfy you, but is safe? Because transformation isn't for those who want to stay the same. It's for those who have the courage to start over. Are you willing to do the inner work? That work of self-knowledge, of honest internal dialogue, of confronting those truths you've been avoiding. Because authentic change begins from the inside out. Do you believe you deserve fulfillment? That you deserve to live with purpose, with passion, with the certainty that God walks with you? Because if you don't believe you deserve it, you will never seek it with the necessary intensity. Are you ready to embrace Christian hope? To trust in divine providence? To experience spiritual healing, to live a genuine spiritual journey? Because here's the truth. You have everything you need. You have the courage. You have the ability. You have God's love sustaining you. What you need now is action. You need to start today, not tomorrow, not next Monday. Today. Choose one of the 10 steps you learned. just one, and begin. Make that fresh start. Seek that threefold reconciliation. Cultivate that spiritual vigilance. Transform that inner dialogue. Discover your purpose. Because every small step you take is a step toward the transformation you truly need. And while you are doing this, while you are living this journey of renewal, of liberation, of growth, I want to be with you. I want to continue guiding you. I want to continue inspiring you. I want to continue showing you that it is possible to live a full life, a life with meaning, a life that honors God and that honors you as well. Therefore, subscribe to the channel, because here you will find content that will challenge you, that will transform you, that will help you live the life you truly deserve. Content about active faith, about spiritual healing, about how to navigate adversity with courage. Content that will help you cultivate that connection with God, that divine presence that sustains everything. And that's not all. Turn on notifications. Because when you turn on notifications, you ensure you won't miss any videos. You'll always be connected. You'll always be receiving that boost, that inspiration, that encouragement you need to continue on this journey. Because transformation is not a destination, it's a journey. And that journey is so much better when you're not alone. When you have a community by your side. When you have someone guiding you, supporting you, reminding you that you are capable, that you are loved, that you deserve to live life to the fullest. So what are you waiting for? Sign up, turn on notifications, and start your transformation today. Because the time is now. The opportunity is now. And you are exactly the one who needs to do this. Let's embark together on this journey of new beginnings, of Christian hope, of genuine transformation. Because when you change, when you transform yourself, when you discover your purpose and live with passion, you don't just change your life, you change the world around you. Sign up, turn on notifications, and let's transform your life together.